What's up, guys? This is Mike, aka Mike the Jeepster. Today's video is going to be a very short video of me installing my transmission cooling system. Now, before I get to that, I just want to say I'm very sorry I haven't made a video in a while. I've been very busy with work, and especially this heat. I work in my garage, and it gets very hot. I can't wait for the winter and fall to get here, so I can start making more videos, and I promise down the road I'll have some more videos for you guys. I'm also looking into getting another project so I could work on, so there'll be more future videos on that down the road. But anyways, let's get to business here. So today I'll be installing this cooling system here. It's a transmission cooling system, and the reason you want to do this is if you take your vehicle off-roading, trailing, stuff like that, it puts a lot of strain on your transmission, and obviously heat is the #1 cause of transmission failure. So that's the reason why I'm getting this. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I got this one from Summit. I'll put the part number in the description. You go from there if you want to go from that. Now I got this one because it's very low profile. Now inside here, between your radiator and your grill here, you got about 2.5 inches to play with, and I think this was like 2.25, so it's barely gonna fit in there, and I measured it. So just keep that in mind if you're gonna be putting your transmission cooler in front. Now you could put it in other spots, but I think for me I was gonna put it up in front because I was gonna put a fan on it. So just keep that in mind, that you do have you have some space in here to stick a cooling system or a transmission cooler in there. And like I said, this one for me, it's gonna work. Like I said, I measured it, and we'll go from there. Okay, so things you need to get this done. It shouldn't take that long to install. I want to say maybe a couple of hours, but you're gonna need some tools. Obviously, you're gonna need some wrenches, some extensions, and you're gonna need a 11 millimeter socket and a 13 millimeter socket. Now there's 6 screws on each side. I'm sorry, 3 screws on each side of the radiator. So what we're going to be doing is you're going to take those screws off and then just pretty much move the radiator forward. Now just keep in mind, when you're doing that, you still got your plumbing. You might have to take off your hoses, and you might have some leaks. So make sure you have something underneath so you can fall on that, like a cardboard or something like that. Okay, and be careful when removing your AC condenser, because obviously I'm not going to be disconnecting all the hoses down there or all the plumbing for it. So when you move it, it's still going to be attached on the passenger side. So when you move it a bit, just make sure you don't force it, because you might break something. So just keep that in mind too when you're doing this. So you're gonna need for the condenser, you're gonna need 2 screws. It's gonna be 2 screws on top, which is this one, and this one in the bottom. There's 2 screws too, which is pretty much easy access to it. So when you take off those 6 screws from the radiator, it just moves forward, and then you could take these off and it'll move forward, and you'll be enough space to stick in the cooler in there. And then tying down, it does come with the hardware, but I think I'm gonna be using these nylon mounting rods for the cooler, but I'm not sure yet. I want to see how it's going to look, see if I get into that, and I can put those brackets on. But anyways, so let's go ahead and do that first. Let's go ahead and take this radiator off. Let's take this condenser off, move it, and see where we're at right now. Alright guys, so the other bolts for the AC condenser is right underneath, right behind your transmission, or right in front of it. There's one right there, and then the other one is going to be right next to it, which is about right here where my finger's at. Okay, so you gotta make sure you take these 2 off, and then that should pretty much unloosen your AC condenser. Just keep in mind, on this side you still have your plumbing hooked up to it, so you don't want to force it, or you might break it. So let's go ahead and continue taking this off. Alright guys, as you can see, The radiator is pushed, and you see there's enough space for me to stick something in here. But just keep in mind, I had to take this, I guess the part of this rod that's right here, I had to move it out of the way. It's just one bolt, which is the 13 millimeter. Just took it off, put it out the way, so I have some space there, so I could stick the fan in there. So again, yeah, there's enough space in there. Just be careful on the other side. You don't pull it too much, or you might, or force it too much, or you might break the plumbing back over there. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue sticking this in here and see how that goes. Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, just be careful when you stick in here that you don't hit it on the fins on this or that, because it might damage the fins. So just make sure you just force a little bit so you can pop it in there. Keep in mind that I'm not gonna mount it yet until I do all the plumbing. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Just gonna make sure it secures it too, make sure it fits in there perfectly, and then go from there. Alright guys, so I got the cooler mounted in there with those nylon mounting rods. Got 4 of them in there. It was pretty much, it was very difficult to get my hands in there, but I did secure it. It does fit in there real nice. So I'm starting to go ahead and mount my AC condenser back. Now keep in mind, if you want to do this install real easy, I would suggest taking out the radiator and taking out the AC condenser. But I wanted to do it the hard way. And obviously it took me a little while to do it, but I got it in there. So again, it's secured, ready to be bolted down. Now I did secure the hoses. I don't know if you see it, but I did secure the hoses to it, and they just go straight down. Here, let me show you guys real quick here. Alright guys, so here's my lines coming out from the bottom of the cooler. One goes into the transmission, feeds back into the transmission. And then the other one will go into the radiator. Now the way I got this going is that the transmission fluid is going to go into the radiator. It's going to feed out into the cooler, and then from the cooler it's going to feed back into the transmission. So I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. I'm going to cut these hoses to length and then go ahead and attach it, then secure my transmission, bolt it down, and then pretty much top the fluids in it, because I did have to take out the transmission line. I did drop some fluid, so I'll top that off. But that's pretty much it. Let me go ahead and start doing that. Let me go ahead and start doing the hose cutting and pretty much routing that where I need to go. Alright guys, before you start mounting all your wires, before you start securing and cutting your hoses to length, make sure that you have mounted the radiator, because if you have it not installed yet, then you're going to cut the wires too short or too long, and you're going to have slack. So just keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting my wires to length. Put them on the barbs here. I took this one off just to take the other hose off. It was kind of giving me a hard time to take it off. I think on AutoZone they have a special tool where you could take them off from these barbs, but I didn't want to mess with that, so I just cut it off because the cooler came with extra holes anyways. So I went ahead and just sliced it off, and sliced it on the other transmission side too over there. So what I'm gonna do is gonna run one of these hoses to the radiator, which is the top cooler part, the top part of the cooler, and then the bottom part of the cooler is gonna feed back to my transmission, and that'll pretty much cool the oil that goes into the cooler there. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that, and I'll show you guys real quick how it looks after I'm done. Alright guys, so my radiator is already good. It's mounted, it's ready to go. I've hooked up all the plumbing on top. I've bolted the 3 bolts down, the 3 bolts on each side of the radiator. Now it's secured pretty well. Make sure your fan spins inside, it's not hitting anything. Now on the bottom, so here's one of the lines, and just curves and it goes into the radiator, into the cooling system. And keep in mind, let me just repeat what I said right here earlier. The incoming line from the transmission goes into the radiator first, it comes out from the radiator and goes into the cooler above. Then the second line from the cooler comes out over here and it goes into the transmission, back into the transmission, and then it cools down and comes back and repeats. So again, make sure you check all your plumbing, make sure everything is secured, everything is tight. Right now in a bit I'm gonna put some zip ties, tie that out of the way, get that tucked in there, and that should be done down here. You gotta make sure you top off your radiator and your transmission fluid. So make sure you do that before you crank it over. So that's done with that. Now it's time to run the wires to my cab. Now keep in mind, you can run this into your ignition, so when the vehicle turns on, this fan will turn on. But what I'm gonna do, since I ran a wire already to my shifter plate, there's a switch already on there. I'm gonna hook this switch up to it. I'm gonna hook this fan to that switch. Got my wire over there. Let's go ahead and do that and get that going. Alright guys, so I'm not going to really show you the wiring connections on this end because my previous videos show how to do that, and I'll leave a link in the description and you go from there. Alright, so let me show you how it looks in the engine bay real quick. Alright guys, as you can see, I'm not finished cleaning all the wiring here, but as you can see, I did install a relay and I ran the wire back to my battery back there. Now keep in mind, make sure you have a fuse in there somewhere. You don't want to burn down your vehicle if there's a short. I still need to clean up these wires a little bit, and you can see the wires tied down that goes back into the cab there. I did put the wiring from right here. I did run into a heat resistant wire loom that goes back into the front of the cooler system here. So just make sure the wire is secure and it's not anywhere near moving parts or moving objects, and make sure all your grounds are pretty much secure. So that's pretty much it for now. Let's go ahead and crank this bad boy up, or turn the fan on and see if it works. Alright, let's do that. Alright guys, so I'm right here in my cab again. Let's go ahead and try it and let's test this bad boy. Alright, so first thing, we'll test the switch. Obviously it's not going to turn on because the match switch is not on. So let's go ahead and activate the match switch. Bam, green light indicates all these switches are going to be active. So let me go ahead and turn the fan on. Red light's on. Let's go check it out. Alright, as you can see and you can hear, the fan is on and it is cooling down my fluids. Well, obviously if the vehicle is on, but it's working, everything looks good. All the wiring is hooked up, looks clean. And again guys, I'll leave a link in the description how to wire up a relay and how to wire up a switch. I'll also leave a link to my video, the one that showed me how I put in my switches on my shifter plate. Okay. Alright guys, so that completes the install of the transmission cooler system. You know, it took me maybe about 2 or 3 hours to do the install. Most of that time was me just removing trying to move my radiator so I could stick the fan in there or the cooler in there. If you want to make this way easier, just take the radiator and the AC condenser out and do it that way. Probably the fastest way of doing it and the easiest way of doing it. It's just struggling like I did. Well, anyways, that completes it. This video will be posted before my trip, and like I said, the reason I did it was because I wanted to use it on the trails this Friday coming up. I'll probably post another video before I go on my trip this Friday. That being said, my next video will be actually me installing a transmission gauge, a transmission temperature gauge. And I'll be doing that video here shortly, and I'll probably post that before I go on my trip on Friday. So if you guys have any questions or comments, just post them down below. And again, like I said, I apologize for not making a video sooner. I'm see if I can get back into the routine. So I'll see you guys sometime this week. See ya.